Zach already brought it over.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody ready? Good afternoon. I would like to call the February 23rd board meeting to order and ask that you join in a moment of silence. Thank you. And now would you please rise and join in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And now we'll have Director Ewing read our mission statement.
The Waterloo Schools will set the standard for urban education by ensuring that every student is given the comprehensive support and diverse experiences needed to graduate with a diploma and a plan.
Thank you, Director Ewing. The next item on our agenda is information from individuals and delegations. This is an opportunity where those who wish to address the school board may do so. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Mrs. Arndorfer will hold up a yellow card when you have 30 seconds remaining and a red card when your time has expired. At that time, I would ask you to conclude your public remarks. Please also keep your comments respectful and constructive. We're all here with the goal of trying to help our students. Please also avoid criticizing the job performance of specific employees, especially those of the school district. Personnel matters are confidential and must be handled through the proper channels and not in a public forum. Finally, we provide this as an opportunity for public comments, but it is generally not a back and forth conversation, especially with items not on our agenda. If we can, before or after the meeting, we'll try to help with information, but we have to proceed with our board meeting items. With that being said, I would like to invite anyone who wishes to address the board to please come forward and start by stating your name and address. Oh, such a large crowd. Okay, going once, going twice. All right, that portion is closed. The next item on our agenda is the East-West WCC BPA National Leadership for East, West, and WCC high school BPA students to Nashville, Tennessee from May 4th through May 10th of 2026. Oh, we got a large group. Yep. So as provided in the Waterloo Community Schools School District Board of Education Policies and Regulations and Administrative Procedures, Policy 604.3 and 604.3 Reg, student offsite learning activities involving any student or student groups which require both out-of-state travel and an overnight stay must be approved by the Board of Education. So can we get a motion to put this on the table?
So moved.
Second.
All right. And we have a group of lovely students here to give us a little bit more information. Can you make sure the green light is on, please?
At our state competition, and many of these students qualified for the national conference, so we are coming.
Probably.
What are the
Course management, we've got computer information systems like computer security.
Speech.
Hi, my name is Ruby Navarro. I'm in 9th grade. I go to West High and I competed in banking and finance.
Hi, my name is Jada. I go to West High. I competed in business, law, and presentation and qualified for nationals for a presentation team.
My name is Sydney Lewis. I go to West High. I'm in 12th grade, and I competed for human resource management.
Hi, my name is Cindy Lemorin.
I'm in 11th grade. I go to West, and I competed in digital media presentation as well as computer network technology.
Hello, my name is Esma Kurgo. I'm from Waterloo West. I'm in 11th grade, and I competed in economic research individual and team presentation.
Hi, my name's Tiana Seals. I'm in 10th grade. I go to East High, but I'm in the Waterloo Career Center chapter, and I competed in marketing and event planning.
Hi, my name is Sophia Stanmore. I'm a 12th grader at West, but I'm in the Waterloo Career Center chapter, and I competed in HR management as well as video production team.
Hi, my name's Latrell Oliver, and I go to Waterloo West High, but I'm in Career Center chapter, and I did computer science and Linux.
Hi, my name is Danica Card, and I'm an 11th grader at Waterloo East High, and I competed in business law and ethics and advanced interview skills.
Hi, I'm Kaysen. I'm an 11th grader at East High, and I competed in HR management and extemporaneous speech.
Hi, my name is Felix and I'm a senior at West High. I'm part of the WCC chapter. I competed in computer security and Linux operations.
We had a couple in business law, one from East, I think, and one from West. Yeah. Do we have courses, or is this all extracurricular study that prepares you for that?
It's a little bit of both, honestly. They are co-curricular activities, so students are learning things in their classes. We've got students in computer classes that work on the computer security. These guys are in the information solutions, and so they're doing the computer security classes out of the Career Center. Word processing is another area. We've got students, come this way. Come on up, ladies, if you just showed up. We've got students that are taking law, business law within the high schools also. So basically, any class we have something close to it, accounting, things like that as well. Say your name, what school you're from, and what events you competed in.
My name is Natalie Ngandu, and I'm from the Waterloo West chapter, and my events were small business management and health presentation.
Hi, my name is Victoria Mbibia, and I'm from the Waterloo chapter, West High Waterloo chapter, and I competed in business laws and ethics and small business management.
So we have 3 chapters, East, West, and Career Center. Good.
Is there a limit on number of participants in a chapter, Devin?
Is there a limit, did you say? No, there's not a limit. No, not at all. So
just thinking ahead.
What are the numbers per chapter? Do you know offhand? I know you said you had a lot.
Yeah, we do. This year, West High expanded quite a bit this year. They had a large group come in. I think they're like over 30. Just chapter, we took 26 to state. The Career Center chapter was about 12. We took 6 to state. And I would say 12 at Ms. Zook has a throat. She can't talk today, I guess. So she had about 12.
I was going to pick on you.
Yeah. She had about 12 in her chapter also and took 6 to state as well.
Well, for me, it's good to see so many familiar faces. Even up to this point, we're extremely proud as a board and as a district of your accomplishments thus far. And this is just formality to come and have it approved by the board just because it's policy. But we're extremely proud of how you have represented the Waterloo Community Schools and that how you will continue to represent the Waterloo Community Schools in all that you do, in all your endeavors.
Could you guys raise your hands really high if you are in something other than BPA also, like band, orchestra, sports? Who does all that? Look at how many double and triple threats we have here. That's great. Thank you.
Dressed up for the concert tonight?
Yep. Band concert at Stand West.
Nice.
I guess I'd just like to just mention that definitely proud of each and every one of you because what you're doing, you're stretching yourself. You're preparing yourself. And those are things that, later in life, you're going to look back and you're going to pat yourself on the back and just, you're happy that you participated because this will help you later in life. So I'm definitely very proud of each and every one of you.
We won't let you off the hook. It's been common practice that we get a photo of the groups of students that come. But the board, this time the board will stay back. Probably better, so it's a pretty large group. So if we can get the group to come forward, we'll take a photo and we'll join in from the rear.
And
4 items. Approval of minutes. Item 1, 6 regular board meeting. Item 2, personnel appointments and adjustments. Item 3, bills due and payable and bills paid between board meetings. And item 4, no, that's not right. Is that right? Item 4, set dates of public hearings for the 2026-2027 proposed tax levy and 2026-2027 budget certification. Are there any items that board members want to see removed?
I'm sorry, before you do that, the minutes that are in my packet are different that are what I'm here. So what am I voting on?
Correct.
When did we get that update? I didn't see it. I'm sorry. Okay.
You want to look over it quick? So are there any items that board members want to see removed?
Number 2.
So item 2, are there any others that board members want to see removed? Seeing none others, can I get a motion to put items 1, 3, and 4 on the table?
So moved. Ewing.
Second.
So all those in favor of approving items 1, 3, and 4, state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carried. That brings us to item 2. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the Board of Education approve the personnel items as listed.
So moved.
I move to divide the question into the following separate parts, with part 1 being the superintendent's recommended motion, excluding under subsection change of assignments, the administrator item, and part 2 being the administrator item that was excluded in part 1.
So we have a motion and a second to remove.
To divide.
To divide, excuse me, to divide. Okay? So this calls for, is this a roll call vote or just a? So this calls for a roll call vote. Director Mills. Director Knight.
No.
Director Schmidt.
Yes.
Director Cox.
Yes.
Director Matlock.
Yes.
Director Ewing.
No.
Chair votes yes. So that item will be removed.
Divided.
Divided, excuse me. Yes, divided. So that brings us to the recommendation of the first part of the division. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the Board of Education approve item 1 of the division of the personnel appointments and adjustments. Change of assignments.
The division was, item 1 is the superintendent's recommended motion, excluding under subsection change of assignments, the administrator item.
So now there's a vote on Ewing, Janelle, and Jesse. Right? On each one. Okay, can I get a motion for the first item, the superintendent's recommendation excluding the change of assignments?
Second.
All those in favor, state aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carried. This brings us to the next item of the divided personnel appointments and adjustment. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the Board of Education approve the change of assignments that was divided on the consent agenda.
I move to postpone indefinitely.
So we have a motion and a second. This calls for a roll call vote as well. I'll start to my right. Director Cox,
Yes.
Director Matlock,
Yes.
Director Ewing,
No.
Director Schmidt,
Yes.
Director Knight,
No. Yeah, I mean, I vote
No.
no. Yes, I do not.
correct. You said it correct. No,
You don't
not,
wanna-
No,
I'm don't, you don't want to postpone.
I don't. No.
Director Mills. Chair, yes. The next item on our agenda is a 3-year budget stabilization plan, phase 3. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the Board of Education approve the proposed budget adjustments as presented.
Second.
Over the past 2 years, the school district has navigated a complex financial landscape shaped by a stagnant state funding and the sunsetting of pandemic-era federal funds. Through a disciplined 3-year reduction strategy developed with input from district stakeholders and WEA leadership, we have successfully addressed a significant structural deficit. Now I will turn it over to Dr. Smith and his team to give a presentation on the 3-year budget reduction plans.
Okay, so I believe Emily is going to help me get the presentation set up. Lee, who actually, in the midst of all that, actually was approved as our new administrative support, ESC superintendent's admin. I'm saying that right. Superintendent's my assistant moving forward. Pam is retiring, so let's give Pam a round of applause there. Or we can do, yeah, we can do all this. We can do all this. So we will do a more formal. We'll do a bigger celebration for you. Pam's pretty outstanding though, and she's had a number of years here. It's a huge loss for us. But in case you missed it, we did approve Lee Schmidt. I'm sorry, yes, Lee Schmidt as Pam's replacement, who is here with us tonight. So turn around, everybody say hi, congratulations, and we're excited to have you. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're getting the presentation set up. We've also got handouts for the board and the audience here, and I'll explain everything in a minute here. Let's see if I can get this. Yep, it's working perfect. And we'll need packets up here too. Maybe if, yeah, do you want to have a few that can come up here? All right. What I said was, and again, we debated back and forth whether or not to hand out handouts to the audience or not. I'm a big believer. Some of these slides are really hard to see, and I feel like if you are here tonight, I really want to make sure that you see this information, because the information we have to share is not only important, but it's been very thought out, and a lot of work's gone into it. Can I have one too? Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Emily. We'll give it just another minute to get handouts out there. All right, I'll go ahead and get started here. So I'm going to try to control the slides from my from up here. But again, how did we get here? I want to make sure that we set context for how we got here as a district. There's basically four main things that have happened over the last handful of years. And those four things are listed here. First and foremost is what we would consider to be insufficient state funding. Over the past several years, the rate at which the state has funded public schools has not kept up with the costs needed to provide the district with year-over-year salary and day-to-day operational costs. Regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, it's just a fact that our operational costs have exceeded the amount of state funding that we've received. This year, we're going to talk about declining enrollment, but over the past 10 years, our enrollment has decreased by 7%. While our population, our most neediest population has increased by 57% for ELL and 25% in special ed. Higher inflation rates, the past few years we've seen higher than normal inflation rates. And last but not least, exhaustion of COVID-19 funds. So Waterloo received, this is back in 2020, Waterloo received $52.6 million in federal funding. This money helped increase salaries, create new positions. This money's gone while increased salaries and new positions have remained. The one thing that also, how do we get here, and something I've shared with our leadership team and I've shared, is that this is not just a Waterloo thing. This is if you look all across Iowa, you can look at Cedar Rapids, you can look at Iowa City, you can look at Dubuque, you can look at Des Moines, the list goes on and on in terms of school districts that are basically in our same situation here. Guiding principles. First and foremost is that we make decisions that are student first. Every decision begins with student impact. Whenever possible, teachers and frontline employees should be protected, and that's been something throughout the process. Employee voice. Employees must be informed throughout the process and given opportunities to provide impact and feedback. We will just explain how we've done that here in the district. Shared responsibility. Budget reductions should be distributed across departments, buildings, and grade levels so that no area carries the burden alone. And I will explain how we've done that. No surprises. We must communicate early and often to provide transparency and time to prepare for potential changes. So we live by no surprises. I feel like, is that this has been our third year of these discussions. This is nothing new. We've talked about this for 3 years. Again, you've probably seen other districts that are just now reacting to budget cuts. We started this over 2 years ago and have had a 3-year plan, whereas other districts, like I said, have just recently rolled out plans moving forward. Finally, safe landing, and I really feel good about this. When reductions occur, we've done 2 years of early retirement, we've done reassignment, we've done cuts through attrition and placement in other district roles. So we've really been successful in that guiding principle, which is to find a safe landing for employees. So the reason I handed this out, and I know it's easy for us to look at the packet here, but I want to there's a reason, there's a method behind the madness here, is I want to make sure that you all have an understanding of how all this works. This is a one-pager that we shared last summer that explains that really what we're working with here is the general fund. A lot of questions last year when budget reductions came up was, well, how come you're still building a new high school, but you're making reductions with employees? Well, remember that we're just looking at the general fund, and that's that far left funnel there, the general fund. Expenses of the general fund include salaries, benefits, supplies, equipment, utilities, and so forth. One thing we cannot touch out of the general fund is anything to do with building or construction. So a new high school, which is funded through our SAVE funding, which is through income tax, is something that is not touched when it comes to the general fund. So again, I want to make sure this is a very handy one-pager that helps people understand where those budget reductions must come from. And again, our budget reductions must come through the general fund.
Jared.
Yep.
You said income tax is out of sales tax.
I'm sorry, not income tax, sales tax. I'm sorry, Lyle. Sorry about that. I knew that when I said through sales tax. That's a 1% sales tax penny. That is the penny that every dollar you spend anywhere in the state of Iowa goes to Des Moines and comes back to us through our enrollment. So again, thank you. I knew that was wrong, and I should have looked over at JT. He's probably giving me the eye there when I said that. So, so here's an overview of our three. Now, I sat here almost a year ago and kind of laid this out. And we said phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Phase 1 was to reduce $5 million. That was enacted last year. Phase 2 was to reduce $10 million, which was enacted this year. Phase 3, now here's going to be a little bit of a nuance, is last year we said we're going to cut $6 million for 26-27. Our goal has raised to $8 million because of our enrollment cut. We lost our enrollment that was lost. This year we lost more than 270 students in enrollment. Each student that you lose for enrollment is roughly $8,000 in state funding. So $8,000 times roughly 270 students is over $2 million in revenue that we will not receive next year, which results in our $8 million that we have to cut for next year. So that's a key takeaway for you, is when we were here last year on March 10th, we said phase 3 was $6 million. Because of the loss in enrollment, that has been up to $8 million. And I'll explain how that impacts us here in a little bit. But the 3-year total, and again, budget reductions are never easy. I do feel like we have done a good job of phasing these out, so it has not been all in one year. I appreciate our leadership and our board for understanding that. So we've been able to really create 3 phases to attack this this budget reduction that needed to happen. Next up, I'm going to let JT. I said, JT, we need a slide that can kind of explain, or a couple slides that can kind of explain if we don't make these reductions, what happens. So I will let you kind of explain these next couple slides.
Yeah, I really wanted to put a bunch of Excel spreadsheets on these slides, but Jared said that's probably not a good idea. So we get pictures tonight. But yeah, the next 2 slides tell the story of where we've been financially, where we are now, and the decisions in front of us. If you look at this first slide, you see the full financial snapshot. From fiscal year 23 through fiscal year 25, we experienced more than $20 million in annual deficit spending. And as Jared mentioned earlier, several factors contributed to that, but the impact was significant, as you can see here in this graph. In fiscal year 26, which is the current year that we are in, you can see we're making real progress. That's where that line starts to shoot up pretty steep from fiscal year 25 to fiscal year 26. And that improvement is driven by 2 major actions: large-scale budget reductions, as we mentioned earlier, and a 20% increase in the property tax rate. So those steps have helped us make meaningful headway, but we are still projected to not fully balance in fiscal year 26. So what I really want you to take away from this slide is if we make no additional reductions, progress stalls in fiscal year 27 and 28. The deficit begins to trend in the wrong direction again. And just note that a couple assumptions: 2% SSA is assumed going forward, as well as stable enrollment after this year. So again, with those 2 factors, we still see a declining trajectory there. So if we go to the next slide, it shows the alternative. This scenario includes the additional reductions that are under discussion tonight. With those adjustments, we project returning to balance in both fiscal year 27 and 28. And as Jared mentioned earlier, this improvement is not the result of one action taken. It reflects a multi-year planning, more disciplined spending controls, and better aligning staffing and operations with our enrollment and revenue realities. And just to put it into perspective, if we made no additional reductions, we would need a 6% SSA to break even next year. Right now, it's projected to land at 2%. Or we would need to raise the property tax rate another 10% to simply balance next year. Taking it a step further, if we wanted to break even next year and recoup the losses that we've had in previous years, the tax rate would need to go up over 26%. Those options are not realistic, and not responsible paths forward. So really the bottom line is this: the funding outlook for public schools remains challenging. Low supplemental state aid, enrollment fluctuations, underfunded mandates, and the voucher system, just to name a few, put pressure on us as well as other districts in the state. We are currently out of compliance with our local fiscal management policy, and continued deficit spending increases both our financial and legal risk. So any questions about these financial numbers?
What's the policy call for?
Our policy states that we'll have essentially a fund balance of 10 to 15%, as well as our spending authorities in the 10 to 15% range. And again, we are currently negative in fund balance. We still have a positive spending authority, but it's below that 10 to 15% mark.
All right. Thank you, JT. Appreciate it. Okay, I know this is really hard to see, and so this is why it's included in your packet. So one thing, you know, every time you go through a project or whatever it might be, you learn from it, right? And one thing that I wanted to do differently this year was one thing I heard is make sure you get employee voice. One thing we believe here in the Waterloo schools is that every employee voice matters. What a lot of districts fail to do is they just make decisions on budget cuts just from just a few people at a district office making decisions. I wish we could have all the time in the world to make sure we had just hours after hours of meetings with employees. When you have 1,700 employees, it makes it virtually impossible. So one thing we did do this year was we sent out a survey, and I think it was 3 or 4 times we reminded staff to take this and give us feedback. I forget how many people actually took the survey. May have been like around 500, and gave us some really good feedback. And that feedback was captured in this front and back here. Basically, the survey asked, what should we protect? Or what opportunities are there and what should we protect? So what you're going to see here is you're going to see the key takeaways, and I'll list these off in terms of what opportunities are there, and then which areas should be protected. So the cost savings opportunities that our employees told us was to look at administration and ESE staff was the top result. Number 2 was looking at instructional coaches and professional development. Number 3 was looking at program and curriculum. 4 was facilities, transportation, and technology. 5 was daily operations and staffing. 6 was leadership, accountability, and governance. And 7 was employee support and equity. And I know that those are very broad topics, right? And some of those are like, how does that fit? I encourage you to read through, you can read through those bullet points there. But I will say, as you see these next slides, you're going to see a real commitment to honoring the feedback of where we can look for opportunities across the district for budget cuts. The overall principle that we heard that came across in the employee feedback was preserve positions with direct student interaction, streamline administrative structures, consolidate overlapping roles, and prioritize programs and spending that directly support student learning, equity, and operational efficiency. So with that as the foundation, we engaged. So there were several conversations leading up to this feedback, and there were several conversations after. Once we had this feedback, we brought all of our principals in the room, head principals in the room, and had them read through line. Well, I don't know if they read every single line because there was thousands of them, but we gave them about 45 minutes to look over all the feedback, to talk with their groups about what this meant to it. And really our lens that we operated through was this employee feedback. I've talked with other superintendents from other districts. I said, have you done this type of feedback? I couldn't find one in our large group, 20 plus superintendent who'd done something to that level. So I know there's been questions about, well, have you gotten employee feedback? Have you done this? Have you done that? It's not easy. I promise you it's not easy. We've had dozens of meetings with building leadership. We've included WA, WSP in some of these conversations as well. So again, I know one bit of feedback last year was, hey, we want to make sure there's more employee voice. We did that as much as we could. We're never gonna make everybody happy, but I truly do feel like that voice was at the table. On the backside was which areas should be protected. Number 1 was core instruction student support. Number 2 was special ed high need services. Number 3 was advanced learning career readiness. Number 4 was libraries, technology, print services. Number 5 was operational safety staff. And number 6 was community connected programs. Key principles were this: prioritize primary prevention by protecting staffing in elementary schools to reduce future remediation needs. Avoid across the board cuts. Evaluate administrative and non-student facing roles for efficiency before reducing classroom and student support positions. Ensure equity in staffing and access to high quality programs across all schools. So when we get into the actual line item budget reductions, I'm going to come back and highlight some of the feedback that you gave us and show you how your feedback kind of led to some of those decisions. So here's our budget proposal for next year for the board. And the way this works is tonight we're going to ask the board to, I'm recommending that we make these decisions. If they give their blessing on it, you will hear from Sam at the very end what our next steps look like. But it's immediate in terms of a very defined set of next steps for any employee who may be impacted. Our budget proposal for next year, and actually that should read $8 million, but it's $3.7 million on staffing, $1 million on programming, and then a $3.2 million in salary reductions. And we'll talk about that. For a total of, I think that should read $8 million. I think we had one small addition this morning, but it should be right at $8 million, which was our goal. So here's our recommended staffing reductions. And so here's where we get the $3.74 million from. And I'm just going to read those off. And the feedback we got last year, and again, great feedback, was that we need to know what this means to our students. What does this mean as a parent in the Waterloo schools? What does this mean? And so what we're going to do for about 5 of these areas is once I go over this, I'm going to have the director or the leader who's in charge, I guess, who oversees that area will get up and I said 2 or 3 minutes is kind of what I said in terms of giving the board and the community kind of a more in-depth idea of what this looks like. So I'll read these off and then we'll go into like some of these areas. The first one is reduce 16 instructional coaches at $1.3 million. Now, to be clear, we already had a handful of instructional coaches who chose not to return this year. So it was already built into the savings a little bit this year. But compared to where we're at last year, it's going to be 16 less instructional coaches compared to what we had last year. Reduce 4 building administrators for next year. Reduce 4 ELP teachers. Reduce 4 WCC teachers. Reduce 4 music teachers. Reduce 3 ESC positions, 1 in student services, 1 in technology, 1 in print services. Reduce 1 district administrator. Reduce 2 elementary teachers. Reduce 2 high school teachers. Reduce 2 secondary counselors. Reduce 2 librarians. And reduce 2 PBDA, which is Performance-Based Diploma Academy, or credit recovery teachers. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have 5 different areas, which again, we're going to have directors come up. You've got the handouts in front of you. They were tasked with answering this, was saying, hey, give us a summary. What does this mean to staffing? And then for a parent, and it'll make a little bit more sense in the other areas, but what does this mean to me? What does this mean to my child? Whether my child's in elementary school, middle school, or high school. Then they're also going to talk about what does this mean to other staff in the building. And then at the very bottom, you're going to see what the actual staff allocation is going to look like moving forward, as well as the total estimated savings by doing the reduction. So with that being said, I believe Dane is going to come up and talk about our changes with instructional coaches.
All right, good evening. Our instructional coaches provide support to all school buildings, provide individual coaching to teachers, and systems level support. As part of the budget reduction, instructional coaches across all levels will be decreased, resulting in instructional coaches supporting multiple buildings. The decrease in instructional coaches across the district was presented last year and has been a 2-year process. Some coaches, like Dr. Smith just said, chose to pursue other opportunities last year that they felt were a good fit for them. This resulted in a decrease of 9 instructional coaches for this school year. 6 more instructional coaching positions will be reduced going into the 2026-27 school year. So, moving forward, 3 elementary coaches will provide coaching support across 3 to 4 buildings each. Middle school coaches will support across 2 buildings. 2 coaches will support the high schools and the WCC location. These instructional coaches will also work with the Human Resources Department and the Teaching and Learning Department to support mentoring and induction for our new staff. Lead teachers, assistant principals, and principals will take on some of the roles and responsibilities that were previously held by our instructional coaches. Learning, collaboration, and support structures have been and will continue to be developed and provided by the Teaching and Learning Department for these groups as they take on these additional roles. You will see that in addition to the instructional coaches that will serve across the district, our schools that have a CSI or a Comprehensive Support and Improvement designation as part of ESSA will have additional coaching to support the implementation of their school improvement plans. Each of these schools has been awarded grant funding. The state has approved coaching support as an allowable expense and use of these grant funds. The CSI coaching support at these 3 buildings will only be in place for the length of the CSI designation. 1 coach will serve Expo, another will serve Carver and Central. Though the proposed reductions result in a decrease in the number of instructional coaches, the new model will maintain a level of support for teachers and buildings in order to impact student achievement and ensure that educators still receive the essential professional support that is needed to drive student success.
All right, thank you, Dana.
Do you want us to wait till the very end, or do you want us to ask questions of the presenter? Either way is fine.
Yep, if we could wait till the very end,
Yep.
that'd be great, Stacy. I should have clarified that at the beginning. And I apologize. We were in a mad rush to print copies at the end of the day. We accidentally, we were not going to include ELL. We were going to include ELP. We flip-flopped those, so I apologize. So ELP was not in your packets. ELL was. We're not going to cover ELL in depth, but we're going to cover ELP. So they're all, now they have that part of the packet. So, Sharice, thank you.
All right. Good evening, board. Sharice Ortman, coordinator of advanced programs and secondary curriculum staff. So as we prepare for the 2026-27 school year, the expanded learning program is restructuring. While we are facing a reduction in staffing, our commitment to meeting the Iowa Department of Education guidelines for gifted education remains firm. The program will continue to prioritize high-quality support for our advanced learners while adapting our delivery model to fit our current resources. By focusing on classroom-based enrichment and strategic pull-out services in the early grade levels, along with secondary, advanced, and college pathways, including the International Baccalaureate Diploma Program, we will maintain a culture of excellence for our high-ability students. So what does this look like for my child? In the elementary, there will be fewer ELP, talent development, and twice exceptional meeting times with the ELP teacher. There will be an increase in classroom teachers providing classroom extensions and critical thinking strategies. There will be an addition of 4th and 5th grade advanced math cluster groups to support advanced math pathways. In the middle school, there will be fewer ELP, talent development, and twice exceptional meeting times with the ELP teacher. There will be an increase in classroom teachers providing classroom extensions and critical thinking strategies. Currently, we have advanced math and ELA, and an advanced science pathway will be added in 2027. At the high school, we have high school math and ELA and world language in 8th grade. Science will be added in 2028. What does this look like at the high school? Currently, little to no change due to 72 college options and the Waterloo Career Center pathway. What does it mean to my team? Elementary and middle school, there will be a reduction from 10 FTE to 6 FTE. Elementary and middle school will travel across 3 versus 2 buildings. There will be fewer talent development groups. There will be fewer modeling critical thinking strategies in the regular classroom. There will be fewer building-wide collaboration opportunities, such as PLCs, with an ELP staff. But there will be an increase in providing building and district-wide professional development. What do changes mean for the building staff and classroom teachers? They will participate in professional development to increase their capacity to serve advanced and neurodiverse learners in the regular classroom. They will increase their enrichment and differentiation strategies for advanced students in the classroom. And they will respond to administrative walkthrough tools for implementing strategies to meet advanced and neurodiverse learners.
All right, next up with WCC teachers is Josh Payton.
So as we're working to realign and align for the fall of 28 launch of the Waterloo United, we have reduced some programs just based on overall budget or overall enrollment numbers. So emergency medical services and digital mass media programs will be phased out starting next school year. These included with the adjustments is also with those 3 administrators in business and an administrator at the WCC. So as we work this through this, we have transitioned our early childhood and hospitality management, and those 2 programs will be over at East High to eliminate any transportation issues and enhance the enrollment numbers over at East and West as we transition with the WCC. So what does that mean for elementary programming? There's no changes to the elementary CTE or the middle school programming. And then the high school, as you can see, as I just outlined, hospitality will be over East, early childhood will be over East and West, and hospitality at West. Digital mass media will not be offered after this year. EMT will not be offered after this year. And we reduced the marketing from 2 instructors to 1.
All right, and to be for the audience, for you guys to know, we have had just so you're aware, we have had some conversations ahead of time just to make sure the board was aware of what was going to be presented, to make sure they're prepared. So there weren't as many questions at the table. So this is kind of a second time they've been hearing this, but I want to make sure just you're aware of that. So, Josh, why don't you go ahead with music department?
The music department is shifting our staffing model. While elementary programming remains entirely unchanged, there will be a reduction of 4 total music positions across the district in the secondary level. What you'll see in the secondary level is band, orchestra, and choir will be supported by 2 certified music teachers per building at the middle schools and East High, and 3 teachers at West High. This change requires some teachers to teach more than 1 music subject, but allows the district to preserve core programs and electives like guitar, piano, and AP music theory. So what does that mean? Again, elementary, there is no change. Middle school, there'll be 2 certified instructors, including with East High, and then 3 instructors for West High.
Okay, and then Josh and Jen are gonna tag team library here.
Hi there. So the district plan for librarians is to reduce by 2. for this coming school year. 4 librarians will be serving secondary students predominantly, secondary buildings, while our library assistants are going to be supporting our elementary buildings. We're continuing to be committed to making the best use of our resources to serve each student in Waterloo, which includes developing student inquiry through collaboration, pre-K through 12, continuing to provide a welcoming sanctuary that builds a culture of reading, provide access and resources to deepen student learning, and respond to curricular needs. Students will not notice significant changes with this new model. They will still access each building's library on a daily or weekly basis. In this plan, library assistants will continue to play a vital role in managing materials and student and staff checkout, especially at the elementary level. Librarians will align resources between middle schools and high schools, looking at that more community college feel for our students in secondary. They'll also support elementary administrators and or teachers with new book acquisitions and questions about library instruction. Elementary staff will ensure that students have access to the library at least weekly. Libraries will be the multi-use spaces that can host collaborative projects and class activities, and building staff will be trained to use Destiny for book checkout. We'd also like to empower our older elementary students to use the check-in and out kiosks that are available in each media center. Our projected savings with this model is $140,000.
Okay, so board will pause right there. I know Stacy had a question, and I do feel like between Amy and myself and Sam, we should be able to answer those questions here, but we can, if we need help from any of those individuals, we can do that. Do you have any questions on any of the 5? Yep.
I have like a terrible migraine, y'all, so I'm trying my best, okay? But so I think I'm not getting the numbers right with instructional coaches. We're going to reduce 16 instructional coaches, so it's 1.3 million saved. How many are there currently? Like right now, today?
Amy, do you want to?
I believe there are currently 12, which is fewer than what we had initially planned. When we went through some of these reductions last year, there were people that chose not to come back to the position and chose to take a classroom teaching position or something else.
Yeah.
So that number did go down further than we initially expected. But overall, this would be a 16 total positions that we're reducing from the previous, it would be 24, 25.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I'm still confused. So 16, there's not 16 positions that are going to be reduced next year. Is that what you're saying? It's how many total? Is that what you're saying?
How many total? Correct.
So when you had the reductions up for what we're saving this year to get to the 8 million, doesn't really come to 1.3 then, because that's not how many you're reducing next year.
It's actually more that we've actually saved. So last year, do you remember how many we had last? Can we do the quick math? How many will we have next year? How many will not CSI?
7.
So we had 23 last year.
Mm-hmm.
Last year we had 23 instructional coaches.
Yeah.
We told all of them, hey, you can stay in your position. We're looking at, but we said next year, as in like 26, 27, we would be reducing. That would be, it was, do they go last year, this year, or next year in terms of reduction? We decided to move it a year back. But because they knew there was 1 year remaining until we looked at more cuts, a number of them chose to go back in the classroom. I think a couple left the district. So, yeah, whatever that number is I just said. 24.
You accounted for those positions even though they were vacant last year. Is that kind of where we're at?
Yes. Yep. And actually, we saved that money from those. I forget. I know there were 7 who left at the elementary level. I know off the top of my head.
Okay.
And so that actually was a added cost savings because we didn't have that 1 year salary for those 7 individuals. I know there's a
Right.
couple at the secondary level. So again, this is compared, and again, there's different ways to look at it, but this was the easiest for us to show it this way.
JT, I guess I'm still not understanding how that can be a line item of 1.3 then just for next year. I understand that you say you saved more because of what happened last year, and that's great. And so, but that doesn't change what we're trying to continue to save, correct? Am I still not?
What we could have
understanding that?
done was we could have went back and done last year's slide and
Yeah.
added more to savings last year. It was easier just to show it moving forward and go instead of going back. We could have went to last year's had we known that 9 would leave and
Right.
added that on to last year's savings. But we just,
So you didn't include it in last year's savings.
we did not include in last year's savings.
Okay. Okay. That's all I was trying to understand.
It's tricky.
Okay. Thank you.
One of the guiding principles that we have put, or you have put in your materials here, is, keeping students first in mind and keeping, as a board member, I don't get down into the line item stuff, and I don't, and this isn't something to upset an entire budget over, but implementation matters. The music department is taking their cuts just like everybody else in this thing, and I'm not happy about it, but I'm not happy about any of the cuts, but I can't do anything about the student funding and the state government and how I feel about that. But implementation matters. And when it comes to the 4 music teachers, content experts met with our principals and presented 3 options and made 3 recommendations. And, the administration left it up to the principals to decide, which is sort of, tradition around here. But I am unhappy that the principals chose the least student-centered option of the 3 options. Music is a very, very specialized kind of discipline, and band, orchestra, and choir are very, very different with very, very different techniques. And if you haven't been teaching it for years, even though the state thinks you're certified, that's not a quality education. And there was an option that would have allowed music teachers to stay in their content areas. But that option was not chosen. The principals decided not to share. The principals decided not to share personnel. The principals decided not to work across buildings. And I'm not happy about that. I want to register my displeasure with that. And I want going forward for principals to be thinking more student-centered than I saw with that. That being said, a budget is a huge thing that takes weeks, months to put together with so many unknowns. It's not worth me voting no and upsetting the apple cart over that. But I would like principals to stick better to the guidelines that the administration put out for them about staying student-centered and doing the best for students. And that's what I have to say about that subject.
I might just add a little perspective. We had all this COVID money, $50 million. And it was to bring students up from what they lost, bring them up to where they should be. Now, the 50 million is about 1/3 of a year's cost. But the students lost, some of them lost the whole year, basically. A lot of them lost more than half a year. So we were too slow, and I'm chagrined about that. But on the other hand, the people right directly with the students knew their students are making progress, but they're not caught up yet. So if your students are making progress towards being caught up, you're reluctant to cut the progress. So that's kind of why I think, things kind of develop like we do, and then you're always anticipating a little more funding than what we had, and so on and so forth. So kind of all the cards fell in the wrong way. But the students did benefit by keeping the extra assistance for them for a little longer. So that's kind of how I see the general summary of where we're at.
Well, that's also what we used to buy all the extra PPE and stuff as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, that true. Some of that money, it wasn't all bringing students up to speed. It was the shields on the desk and the custodians to clean the shields every other night. Remember, we had every other day a different group of kids, so we had to clean, super clean every night and every day. So that was money that was invested. That wasn't really, I guess, direct student.
It was just
student instruction, but the student instruction part was the one that was hard to pull away from when you knew the students hadn't quite, they really weren't right back to where they belonged.
Are you done with the presentation, or do you have more? Okay, I'm sorry. Keep going. I just didn't know what more we were.
Yeah, I know. It was kind of like, we can pause after to, if there's any, just based on the feedback you got there. Yep. No, we got more to go for sure. Yep. So I will come back. We're going to summarize things at the end, but I want to get into a little bit with our, these are recommended program reductions of the 8 million. This is about $1 million. And I will say each of the numbers you see, I would say we used a conservative number for most of these, meaning the savings that are probably a little bit higher, especially back on salaries, we went with a lower number of each. Let me clarify that. Each of the numbers that we used for certified employees, you can see was a multiple of 70,000. And when I say $70,000, that would be salary and benefits. And JT, if I'm saying anything wrong, let me know. That number is probably a little bit higher than 70,000, but we used a little bit conservative number. The same thing, the reason I said that is I do feel like that top line item, cost savings through AEA, flow through funds, actually is probably going to be a little bit higher than that. We just secured a $300,000 grant. That's really going to absorb most of our AA money for next. The services that we get from the AA is probably going to be covered through a grant that we just found out about last week. So thank you to Dana and her team for applying for and receiving that grant. Building supply budget reductions. Our buildings have been tasked with saving, I don't know, about $10,000 per building in supplies. JT, would you say that's?
Yeah, when you average it out, that's probably about right. Yep.
Success Street, I'm not super familiar with that, with exactly what we're reducing from that, but that is a part of our Success Street contract reduction that, and again, we will continue to get the services to our students, but that was an area that we thought we could reduce some money from. Employee stipends. Sam, how much do we pay out each year in stipends roughly? Do you recall?
Between all of our regular employee stipends, classified TLC money, around $1 million.
So we have $1 million in stipends. We're looking to cut about 10% of that. And so we have an idea of where that's going to be coming from, but those have not been finalized yet. IJAG, we still have IJAG. However, that funding is now coming from a state funding. The IJAG has found funds for that. So we're still able to have IJAG 4 different classrooms in 3 different buildings. Reduce software subscriptions. We just had a meeting today. We feel good about reducing the software that our teachers and students are not really using or using a small amount. Bus transportation. Now that's a very tricky one to quantify. I do feel good, and I think the board does too, about our change back to Durham. We think there's going to be some cost savings there. But that line item is because we are what you have in your packet is about ELL. So our ELL, instead of having a newcomer program at Bunger and at West High, we're going to be moving those back so it's in your home boundaries. So that's going to save us a bus or 2 right there from doing that move. Switch to First Stop Health. I'm forgetting exactly what that was. Oh yeah, that's right. You got it.
So this was a change we made in November of last year, I believe. It's while we were working through our health insurance change, but we went from using EAP and Teladoc to putting that in one service in First Stop Health.
And building printing reductions as I print off packets for everybody in the room. I promise we're going to be working on cutting our printing costs moving forward. It's not a huge amount, but every amount counts, and we've got $20,000 line item for that. Any questions on the recommended program reduction? So we've went through staffing, now programs.
What does the Success Street reduction mean?
Yeah, Sheena, I'm totally putting you on the spot. You're the one who, the Success Street contract reduction of 150. I know you kind of solidified that about a year ago. Are you able to, sorry, I know I'm putting you on the spot, right? I forgot in the heat of the conversation. Like, I don't remember exactly how you found that, but
I wish you'd brought Louie tonight. I think we could all use some puppy cuddles after this.
Yeah. Louie's at boarding right now, and I'm excited because I got to sleep through the night the other night. It was just administrative changes to Success Street. So it wasn't any sort of impact to the quality of service provided to students. Another thing that we were able to do to arrive at that reduction was we had never knew enough to bill private insurance. But private insurance is a thing for some of our families, for most of our families. And so our families serve as the payer of last resort. So if their private insurance doesn't cover, then we take on that responsibility. But that helped with the reduction.
That's what we do with like the mental, with like our therapists that come in, correct? So yeah, I think that's something we've done before, right? And it doesn't matter. But
yeah, so for Success Street, we never billed private insurance prior. And we found that was an opportunity to offset some of the costs that we were providing. But again, none of our families are responsible for a bill. If we are needing to provide financial support, we do.
So there's still going to be the same amount of coverage that they're always, okay.
Yep.
Thank you. And then what does the software subscription reduction mean? Are you talking about like the ones that the libraries use or something different?
So this goes back to the media subscriptions that we went through with Matt O'Brien and Ron Moreland. And our team has just gone through and vetted how often and usage of those software subscriptions are. And we're coming back and just making a recommendation on the ones that we aren't using as much, that haven't been in touch, that we'll take those and not use those subscriptions anymore. So we're in the process of doing that right now again. So that comes into that total dollar amount.
Okay. Because like right now we pay for like a package, right? And so it will save to take out the line items. Are we keeping Britannica?
I'm smiling because we met on that today. So,
okay.
Yeah, no, as of right now, that's a line item discussion. And so we haven't made final decisions, but looking at how can Britannica, if not Britannica, what else? I believe that subscription, and Matt's going to correct me if I'm wrong, but a $69,000 subscription annually.
Yeah.
And so we're looking at that usage and just if there's another way that's more cost efficient to be able to use something different.
Okay.
Does the stipends, the employee stipends or the overtime pay affect any other, is that grouped in any other line item with any other positions that's completely separate? So how do we, explain that a little bit.
So there's what we've had in the past is we have TLC stipends, and we're looking at some of those. We're not saying that those are going to be decreased, but we are looking at that. We have stipends for special education. We have some stipends for, honestly, something like safety patrol, where people are out like on the crosswalks before and after school. That could easily be paid out on like hourly pay instead of being a stipend. So that's something we could look at adjusting. It's more smaller pieces like that, but we have so many of them. By changing some of that, we could see a larger reduction.
So the coaches that drive buses, is that a stipend? It saves a lot of busing costs, but
they're paid hourly. It's not a stipend.
That's not under the stipend.
Okay, let me change that. If a coach is driving for our students, they are paid a total stipend, and we kind of work that out to what the hourly rate would be if they were being paid for that. If they are not coaching and they're just driving, they're paid hourly.
But that's a pretty big net savings as opposed to hiring charter transportation.
Over a charter, yes, absolutely.
Even over Durham, probably.
It's probably similar to Durham.
Okay, so we've went through employees. We've went through program reductions. The last one is recommended salary reductions. So what we are recommending is a one-time salary freeze for all Waterloo school employees for the 26-27 school year. In exchange, we will reduce 5 workdays from all employee contracts for not only next year, but for all years moving forward. We like this approach because it ensures shared sacrifice, spreading the burden across the organization rather than placing on a small group of employees. So what I've done in your packet is I've included a new proposed calendar for next year, which would show this. So in your packet, we have, this is just a draft, so do not go ahead. Andrew, I know you're here. This is not the calendar that we're approving. This is just a draft. But we understand if we're going to ask for a salary freeze for all employees, which is kind of a unique approach, but the more we talked about it, the more we liked it. If that, what we said is we have to offer time back. We have to give contracted days back. So in this scenario, and again, I'm explaining that this is part of negotiation. So this is not something the board can approve. This is something that we have to get through negotiations. Is that we would go for all of our staff, their contracts would be reduced by 5 days. So for example, and Sam, correct me if I'm wrong here, because I've been wrong earlier, is right now our teachers have 190 days on their contract. It's 172 student days, 6 vacation days. I'm sorry, 6 not vacation, paid vacation days, and then is it holidays, and then 12 PD days. Is that up to 190? What we're suggesting is reducing 1 PD day and 4 student days. So what we're looking at is we would get out and we would move. We're also thinking about moving around snow days. We know that it's appealing to be able to get out of school earlier and to start your summer earlier. So what we're proposing is at the last day for students in this scenario for next year, for the 26-27 school year, will be on Monday, May 24th, with the last teacher day being Tuesday, May 25th. There's a lot of thought that went into that, but when you do the math and you reduce 5 contract days from an employee, just teachers, for example, that would be Sam, you explain that really well. Why don't you do that?
So when you have the same salary over the course of a shorter number of days, that increases how much each day is worth. So moving from 190 days to 185 days would be equivalent to a 2.7% increase. So while the total number for the year doesn't change, you're working less days to get to that same number.
So one thing I want to explain, and we can come back and answer questions from the board, but remember last year, and again, Stacy, this is where, I debated about, do I go back and show last year's presentation? I didn't want to confuse people, but this is a change. Okay, so last year we said entering this year, our goal was to reduce approximately $1.5 million through salary savings. Coming into this year, our goal, and again, this is all done through negotiation, so it's not like we can say this is it and it happens. Our goal was to go roughly 1.5% salary increase across most employee groups. However, when we lost those students for enrollment, we had to find $2 million more. So that was where the conversation it was like, how do we find $2 million more? And we started talking about, well, do we go deeper into staff? And that was a discussion. We were like literally scratching our heads for an hour in room 110 saying, how do we find $2 million more worth of staff cuts? And we started talking about a lot of positions. And it was like, we came back to what our employees suggested because we had that in front of us. And we said, well, geez, we listed all the groups and we started looking at like elementary. I'm just going to use a couple examples if that's okay. We started talking about elementary teachers. Like we could cut 10 elementary teachers. We could, but talked about what that means for classroom size. We talk about what it meant to our guiding principles, which is to really leave those closest to students as much as possible alone. We talked about our family support workers. We talked about our student support specialists. The feedback we got was that, the feedback was we need student supports. We need to preserve those positions. Another conversation we had quite transparently was title teachers. Title teachers in our buildings do a lot of the work with our students around literacy. And being one of our big goals for the district, how do you go about trying to address our district goals? By having those closest to literacy work by cutting those positions. So the more we talked about it, they said, how can we, instead of, and you're going to see my numbers on the next slide, which is pretty incredible what $2 million is how do we spread the wealth across our entire, all 1,700 employees? So what we pivoted to was to an across-the-board salary freeze for all groups, administrators, admin support, paras, teachers, all the positions. So the original plan was the 3 negotiated groups to get to 1.5% for a savings of $1.5 million. That was last year. This year, after exploring all options, we landed on all employees taking a 0% no raise for next year in exchange for those 5 days for a total savings of $3.2 million. Here's the important, I already gave the disclaimer earlier. Any changes involving salary reductions or contract days must be addressed through collective bargaining process. These items cannot be approved by the board. Tonight's action is simply, it's not a formal approval. Rather, it signals the board agrees with the overall philosophy and is supportive of the direction and stance we will take in negotiations. Now, it's tricky because we did have our first end negotiations. There's legal things which you can and can't share outside. And Sam, if I'm crossing the line, let me know. But this is already part of our conversation, which we started last week, 2 weeks ago. Okay. Here's one thing if we don't do a salary freeze, if we don't do a salary freeze, what does that mean? So the difference between 1.5% and 3% is roughly $1.75 million. That's the difference. If we were to use $70,000 in salary and benefits for a certified employee, that's the rule of thumb we're using. The difference between 1.5% and 0% is cutting 25 certified positions. The difference in and then if you look at that through hourly staff or classified staff, we're looking at 44 classified positions. None of this is easy. Okay. And there's not, even the positions we have listed on the reductions, it's been brutal conversations, not easy, tears, all kinds of, feelings and all those things, right? We're hoping to stop the bleeding at this point. We feel like it's in our best interest. And again, I don't want to go too deep into this, but we truly feel like if we can just get to an agreement with 0% across the board, that we can sidestep or we can not have to deal with cutting more positions. And again, that needs to be negotiated. We'll see how that goes, but that's our stance. So here's at a glance. If you're to say, okay, let's see all those areas at a glance, this is everything in one spot. It's a salary freeze, it's the positions, it's the program cuts, and it totals up to right at $8 million when you combine all those things. So I got there's 3 questions that were frequently asked questions that came up throughout this process. And one thing was about sports. And Janelle, I really appreciate your comments about music. when you talk about music, like the yin and the yang is music and sports. And so one question that came up throughout the process was sports. So I asked Josh, our director of secondary and athletics, to come up and share. Could you explain to us what about sports? Because we're addressing music, but I want to hear about sports.
Yep. So as you can see in this table here, we took the last 3 years of our combined programs of what we've taken in-house between East and West. We've had girls wrestling that's been combined for the last 2 years, girls soccer, which has kind of been all over the place. It was combined for a little while, then it split back off between the buildings, but then it came back together 2 years ago. And then girls golf, this is going to be the first year that we combine girls golf. So what you can see is the coaching savings. It's a combination of one head coach, one assistant coach, and then the transportation savings. Now what you'll notice with golf is that the golf teams take a van, so that does cut down. It's about $100, $120, $150 a trip. Then we multiply that over the years that they've been combined, just for the last 3 years of savings, to show it's just under $40,000 with the combined athletics. The other piece, though, at the board work session back in January, when we go to Waterloo United High School and combine 45% of our coaching contracts, that's where we see the substantial efficiencies that just keeps us just under, just over $800,000 that are annual savings within our coaching and athletics for the Waterloo schools. And that's between the high school and Central coming offline, and their coaches' contracts that won't be filled.
So like Josh is, and you heard at the work session, we've really started to look at our future considerations for cost savings. And we're seeing, and you called it, Lyle, in a lot of our town halls, is that once we have an opportunity to be more efficient with our staffing, starting in 28, 29, we're going to see some significant salary savings and operational share savings at the secondary level starting in 28, 29. One other slide I added was, and again, we hear it a lot, is the idea of administration. And going back to the staff feedback, number one idea was administrative and ESE staff. So I thought it was important that we list out line item by line item the administrative cuts that we have done so far, and that we plan to do in the future. So in 25, 26, which was this year, we reduced 2 administrators from the buildings. We did a salary freeze this year for administrators. We reduced 4 directors, another I can't remember exactly how that one worked there, but it was through director of secondary. We reduced administrator benefits for insurance and cell phone stipends. For next year, we're looking at reducing 4 secondary administrators. So what you're going to see, and again, a theme of this is that it's secondary focused. What we heard in the feedback was that elementary schools are already thin as it is. They're already lean. A large majority of our cuts are coming from the secondary levels. Reduce 4 secondary administrators, all from the secondary schools next year. Those will all be assistant principal positions. We have yet to figure out exactly how that's going to look, but that's the plan. We're proposing, you heard me say earlier, a second year of salary freeze for all administrators. And then we've also already announced reducing the director of CTE and career programming. I also checked on the salary freeze. I asked our superintendents from the 23 largest districts that they've ever done 2 years of salary freeze for administrators, and there's no district on record that I'm aware of has done 2 years in a row of salary freezes for administrators. For 27, 28, we're looking at reducing 4 more secondary administrators so we're going to cut basically 7 APs and 1 head principal by 28, 29. So we're cutting, like I said, 8 secondary administrators in the next 2 to 3 years. So if you look at it combined, it's 11 secondary administrators, 5 district office directors, 2 years of salary freeze, and reduced administrator benefits which totals up to exactly $3 million, which is 13% of the $23 million budget savings plan. I know not everybody's going to be happy. They're going to say you could do more. There will be opportunities through attrition. We will look at every opportunity, every position that is through attrition. We will consider that, and there's opportunities for more. But as it sits right now, I do feel like, $3 million, 13% of that plan, as we talk about really spreading the burden, I do feel like our administrative ranks are also playing a role in that. Sam, the last slide here is you're going to talk about next steps, because I feel good about the next steps in terms of how with those affected employee groups.
So if this plan is approved tonight by the board, what we'd be looking at is there would be an email going out to any of those affected groups this evening, kind of talking about when district leadership would meet with those groups this week. Likely tomorrow or Wednesday is when those meetings would be set. We'd have jobs posted tomorrow for those people to look at. We'd have updated job descriptions, as many of these reductions include a change in the structure of that program. Over the next couple weeks, those jobs would be posted for a week. Starting on March 3rd, we'd go through an interview process for those positions, which would include obviously an interview looking at past performance from employees. And we'd like to have all those decisions made by March 30th. As Jared mentioned, the goal is never to just straight up tell somebody that their position is being terminated here. The goal is always to have a safe landing as much as possible, which is what we tried to do last year when we went through some of these reductions. So no positions would be posted externally until April 20th. What we would do if anybody is not returning to their same position is we would give you the option to look through any open positions, and you would be transferred to that position if you chose to go there without an interview. If there were multiple people in that same situation that wanted the same position, we'd go through an interview process for it, but our goal would be to find you something that you were interested in doing within the district. As of April 20th, any positions that are still open would be posted externally. On April 27th, we would have to look at reduction in force notices if necessary, if none of the negotiations went through to reach that salary freeze. The reasoning for that would be if we do not know what our budget's going to be for next year, we wouldn't be able to employ more teachers than we could fund.
So yeah, just one more comment about before I can answer some questions or get some clarity. Is that I want to be honest, and I know we do have members of our union leadership here. Like I do feel good about that process. We had a very good first night negotiations. I can't get into that too much. I did give you guys just a short summary of how that went. We do feel like both sides are ready to find the best solution for our district. So again, I want to be, even though it's tough in this situation about how we communicate our plans. I do feel like both sides are really working hard to make this work. It's not easy. It's been very difficult. And I know we truly care for all employees. So with me sharing some of these things does not mean that our union leadership has not been open to ideas and bring forth good suggestions to the group. We're working through that. Again, it's kind of awkward in the timing of this meeting and negotiations. I can't share a whole lot, but I do feel encouraged by those conversations.
Go ahead. We can go with questions or comments.
Mine's more of a comment, and I just want to extend, this is definitely a very difficult situation here with the district, and cuts there's nothing easy about it. But some decisions have to be made. I just want to reiterate, as we're doing these cuts, we're cutting instructional coaches, ELP teachers, regular teachers, music teachers, librarians. We got to step up on our communication. Because if we're about the kids and we're dealing with less, every area of this district has to step up communication. We have to step it up because it's for our kids. We can't have the gaps. The other thing is, as mentioned earlier, implementation. With these cuts, we have to make sure how we're going to be going about moving forward. So that execution of how we're going to make sure we stay student-centered is so important. This is not business as usual moving forward. It's not business as usual for us as a board. It's not business as usual as everyone here in this district. So as we move forward, I'm just strongly urging everyone associated with the district that the execution of making sure our kids are learning and staying student-centered is so critical. It's critical. Our principals have to be communicating to our teachers. And the ones that might be a little lacking, guess what? We got to pick them up some kind of way. You know, from my observation, I'm only going from my observation. You know, I've seen too many kids talking about, hey, you know, I need to return this book and then everything's closed. So however we go about with that librarian, you know, once I'm talking about, you know, making sure we have that communication, implementation, and execution, we need to get that right. I'm going by my observation. My eyes are not lying to me. My eyes are not lying to me on the simple fact that we have to make sure we are communicating. And if we don't communicate with these cuts, we really are stripping the core of this education. I didn't run to be able to do, you know, to be part of that. So yeah, I'm putting a challenge out as these cuts, because we got to do with less. This is not easy. I know it's not. I'm just strongly urging everyone to make sure this is not business as usual. We have to step it up. You know, our administrators, you know, our teachers, our staff that's working with things. Our kids, if we're going to stay student-centered, as mentioned, moving forward, I shouldn't observe business as usual. I shouldn't observe it. And if that's something I will be very adamant about here with this coming future, because the kids deserve a chance. If we're talking about what we're saying up there, diploma and plan, let's be about it. And we all have to step up. So I just wanted to just mention about this is not easy. It hasn't been easy for the ones that have to come up with these numbers and everything. It's not easy for us as a board. But at the end of the day, we have to step it up with our communication, implementation, and execution.
I'm afraid we are seeing the beginning of the war on public education, and that's been raging underneath the surface for a while, but it's starting to come above the surface. And there is a war on public education. There's a war, this personal choice voucher, take money away from public schools and give it to corporations that think they're going to do it better than our teachers do, is completely stupid. And it's a call to action. I know that you all in this room probably feel pretty close to the same way I do about that. And I'm speaking to the choir, and I get that. But any way that you can get a hold of your legislator, or any way that you can get a hold of our governor and make your displeasure shown, is going to help fight the culture war against public school, defunding, basically. And so I ask that you do that. We've been pitted against each other, sort of, and more antagonistically maybe than we would want to in contract negotiations. I don't know. I don't attend them, but we've been had all these funds taken away from what we want to do for our students, and then we have to kind of fight and scrap over what we're going to do about it. And it's not fair, and it's not right, and it's not how we want to bring up our students. And it makes me very, very angry, which I think I've gotten across here. So thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you all for listening to all of this. Aster, that was my board comments time. I don't need to do it at the end of the meeting now. And I have spoken my piece and counted to 10.
I have a couple questions still. So with the proposed contract reduction of 5 days, so it means that our certified staff, their salary would remain the same. What happens to hourly staff?
So hourly staff, part of what we do is we go into the negotiations and talk about how that time could be made up over the course of the year. The goal would be not to adjust, not to adjust. We could adjust their working hours so they were able to make up those 4 days worth of time, whether it was working an extra 10 minutes at the end of each day. We know that a lot of our schools are still waiting for buses at the end of the day. So that's a great place to have some of that extra support where that time could be made up. The goal would be working that through that in negotiation. So our hourly staff still came out of the year with the same total amount.
Okay. And then have we figured what the reduction in days would save in busing?
Do you remember how much? I know we talked about a rule of thumb around busing. Was it 40,000 a day?
Yeah, it was roughly around 40.
So yeah, it's a great question. So Lyle's always given us great numbers, and I think we had roughly $40,000 per day in transportation.
Okay.
So 4 days of student days times 40,000, roughly 160,000, just based off of those. Now Durham might be a little bit different, so that's where I need to pause.
We did negotiate a plus or minus 10% in the Durham contract. So
we did or didn't?
We did.
Okay.
So that's wasn't their initial proposal. So we've got a little flexibility that fewer days should cost us less, but you get into some of the details of the contract, but on the surface that it should be 40,000 a day.
Okay. I wanted to just address my person, and I've shared this. This isn't a surprise to anybody. We keep talking about transparency and communication and how important all that is, but we waited until today for people to know what was going to happen. And I'm just not comfortable with that. I did share with everyone here that I preferred that we would have released this with the agenda so people would have known what was going on, or that we had done a for information only presentation of it at a previous board meeting. So I just want to be clear that I don't like anything that's in here, but we do have to run in the black. It's illegal for us to run in the red. We don't have a choice. We have to run in the black. That's a non-negotiable. I am just talking about our process and what we have promised that we were going to do, which was to communicate and be transparent. And when we talk about the difference between last year and this year, we just did the same thing. We just did the meeting exactly the same way as we did it last year. So I just wanted to share my thoughts with everybody.
So Stacy, I can explain for the audience the thought, the philosophy, the rationale. There's no easy way to announce budget reductions. And so here's your options. We can send it out through an email. We can have our principals deliver messages in their different settings. We can send it out in a board packet on Thursday. we can bring everybody into the West High auditorium, and it's hard to find that time. What we said there's no easy way to communicate
Well,
budget
don't
cuts.
we could have done it for information only though too. Like, don't forget that that was an option. We could have done that before this, presented everything as for information only, and then voted at the next meeting. I mean, that's an option as well.
It's an option.
I'm not saying it's great. I'm just saying it's an option.
Right. So my you're right. Communicate. One of my core values for sure.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that I had a chance to tell everybody at one time, whether they're watching from home, whether they're in person. I won't compare to other districts. I feel like the way we've done it is about as good as you could given the circumstances. I encourage you to go and read what's going on in other districts about how they're handling it compared to us, and see, and just notice the difference about what's going on. We're not talking about closing schools. We're not talking about, there's so many other things that are going on right now. And I do feel very good, again, and maybe good's not the right word. I feel like we have done our due diligence and done as much as we can to get to this point. So, but yeah, there's no perfect way to communicate, and this was the best option of the handful of options.
Well, I know a lot of staff hours put on this work. Not easy work. I know, appreciate the staff, all the staff trying to submit ideas. There's definitely areas I'm concerned about within there. We all have our opinions, and we pick which way we need to go. I felt personally that we could have made some cuts in extracurriculars to offset transportation costs and other redundancies in some activities that we could have probably shortened up a few more teaching positions and left those in place. Every area that we're seeing reductions concerning the LP piece really concerns me. I just what the benefit for those students are that we could have kept a little more elementary level there. I felt like we're kind of going a little bit light, in my opinion. I know it's definitely. I mean, everybody's working ideas, so I get that, and I don't discredit anybody's work here, but I wouldn't personally like to make up a little bit more there in that area. I think we could probably cut some on secondary sports and stuff there, some more consolidation that would have offset some of our teaching positions. And I feel for the people out there that are going through what's it going to look like tomorrow. I went through that twice in the last 5 years of my career, not knowing I'm going to walk into a building where I'm not going to have a job or not, how it's going to provide for my family, where's it going to take my family. It's very fortunate, and unfortunately, I know there's some of my coworkers were not in the same category, and we had some of their lives shattered. People had been career people, and then they were gone. And so, my heart does go out to those who are set in those positions tonight, and know that, I hope the best for whatever happens, and that we can find you a home within the district where you can find a spot in your career where you're meant to be. But it doesn't feel good. It does not feel good knowing that, you're going to look up in a few hours and maybe you may not have a spot. And it's been a rough night I've been on the board almost 10 years now, and it's probably been one of my roughest nights, and nothing but all these processes just feel totally right. And I think there's some things that we have to do a better job on as an organization going forward.
This is always tough. Sitting behind this seat, not just in my position, but this board in general. Because I believe that each one of the board members that represent the Waterloo Community School District Board does have compassion and does care about our community, our students, our staff, our administrators, our district leadership team. I don't believe that there's any individual ill will or it's sometimes it seems that some of this stuff is personal toward a group or individuals, and I never want that to be what the case is. This is hard. This is hard. But I'm of the premise that trouble doesn't last always. And as a district, these 7 members, we have a responsibility. And this is part of our responsibility to vote on decisions that can ultimately affect people's livelihood. And I individually and collectively with this group don't take that lightly. I do want to thank Dr. Smith and his team, because I know you work with these individuals and these groups as close. I can say names, but you can hear the passion and the heartfelt conversations when some of the directors had to get up and speak to this, because it doesn't feel well. It doesn't feel well for anyone. So I do want to thank those who were on the grind and the countless meetings and going back and forth to get to where we are, or where we need to be as a district financially. Nobody wants this, and I have friends all over the state, and the conversations are the same. I know we're here in Waterloo, and we take a this is important to us. Our community is important to us. But as Director Ewing stated, a lot of it is not directly the fault of anybody in this room. That might not make you feel the best right now, but I don't want anybody leaving this space with individual ill will toward anyone in a position that has had to come up with this. I agree with the transparency, the need for collaborative efforts on all parts, starting with the early literacy all the way up to what we'll see in the secondary program offerings as we move forward in the district. We're in a time that we all need to be together as much as we possibly can, as Director Cox said. I don't know what tomorrow holds, but we do have an obligation to put ourselves in a position to be fiscally responsible. And I believe that we are attempting and moving toward that direction. For me, last year was just, it was a bit much. And I personally didn't like the process. I didn't like how it went. I appreciate, you know, the more detail that was presented, how it directly affects our student. A parent can look at this and see what their student, how it affects their students. I wish we weren't in this situation. But we're here. We need to get it right from this point forward. Does anybody have anything else?
I just want to say before we vote that my vote is reflective of the process, not the content.
Are there any more questions? Are we ready for the vote? So all those in favor of approving the superintendent's recommendation, state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carried. Thank you again for all those that worked on this and put this forth. This brings us to the next item on our agenda, the budget guarantee for 2026-2027. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the Board of Education will levy property taxes for fiscal year 26-27 for the regular program budget adjustment as allowed under section 257.14 Code of Iowa.
Second.
All right, and we have our own CFO, JT Anderson, to talk a little bit about this. No,
Yeah.
this is budget guarantee. It's a budget guarantee.
So as mentioned a couple times tonight, we had a significant enrollment decline for next year's budget of approximately 288 students. And as a result of this significant enrollment decline, we will be on the budget guarantee for fiscal year 27. In order for us not to be on the budget guarantee, SSA would have to be set about 3.8%, which if you're following the current funding proposals, 2% is likely going to be that number. But the budget guarantee ensures a district with declining enrollment can maintain at least 101% of the previous year's regular program district cost. And this guarantee is typically funded by property taxes. But again, if you're following the legislation in some of the proposals, they're actually talking about funding this budget guarantee with state aid instead of property taxes. Again, the legislature's big goals are to reduce property taxes. So this is one of those items that they're considering right now. The amount of the budget guarantee, again, will depend on what SSA is set at. If it's set at 2%, our budget guarantee will be $1.48 million. So again, this process requires board approval to allow us to receive this budget guarantee. If it is funded, has to be funded through property taxes. We will adjust our cash reserve levy such that our overall tax levy does not increase from this current year 1675. So we will make that adjustment calculation. We will not have a property tax increase in our property tax rate this year. I just want to make that clear. So we will adjust that accordingly. Any questions?
Does it really look like it's going to be 2%? I mean, I know it was looking lower before.
Yeah, I think it's going to land at 2%.
Good.
So reading the tea leaves, what's your feeling on whether or not the state will cover the budget guarantee?
I believe the state will cover the budget guarantee. Yep.
That's would be a big relief for us.
Yep.
Well, $1.5 million.
Yep.
Are there any more questions? So all those in favor of approving the superintendent's recommendation, state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carried. That brings us next to the board policy changes. Item 10, board policy changes, first reading. And this is just for information only. It's quite lengthy. Our own Pam Arndorfer, Assistant to the Superintendent Board Secretary, can talk a little bit about any one of these that anyone has questions. But again, these are just the first reading, so it's for information only.
The one thing I do want to point out is that you'll notice some of the policy changes are simply a recodification as we align to what we're getting from the Iowa Association of School Boards. It just makes things easier for us to track when there's changes and such coming in. So quite a few of them are just recoding. And I know the dress code was a big one that some people saw dress code and like, we're changing dress code. No, we're just recodifying the dress code policy. And then there are some in there that are being deleted. A lot of times when that is happening is that we are taking policies that have multiple, we might have multiple policies within our manual that are addressing the same issue. And so we're taking some of those and consolidating those policies so that we've run into the problem where we might change it in one policy and it's not getting changed across the board in all of those. So some of those deletions are simply that verbiage has been embedded into another policy. So if you have any specific questions, I see Lyle has his pen out on one.
Yeah. Page 82, 506.9. It says currently the policy is to excuse absences for students in military training, reserve military training, that are required to miss some class time in order to take mandatory other military courses. So with that gone, does that mean the students are not going to get makeup time available?
So that particular policy, and I'm going to have to look up the 501, the 03 policy, but that policy is coming out because that attendance issue is being addressed in another policy. So I'm going to have to look up the exact verbiage on that to answer your question. But students would be, I'm looking at Adrian, I mean, students would be excused in order to meet JROTC, what they need.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. But I'll send you that exact.
Policy.
Yep, it's in a different policy.
And then 510.3, page 89 and 90, the philosophy. We've typically kind of depended on that in middle school, more or less equal playing time, but not so in high school. So it says that's going to be in the handbook, but is that carry the same weight? I mean, why would we remove it from policy?
So part of the having things in a handbook cleans up our policy manual a little bit. A lot of that, and we don't have to, but part of that is just to clean up and also put those things in policy which would always rise to the level of board governments. Would the board want to always have to make a decision on middle school athletics, or is putting it in a coach's handbook and knowing that's what the expectation is?
Yeah, I'm uncertain about that because, at our training session, it was policy, policy, policy. Always go back to policy. If you don't have a policy, you might want to reconsider that one.
Sure. And we can certainly put that in there as, maybe it becomes a regulation or something under another policy, but.
Okay.
I think if you did anything is widen it to not just athletics, extracurriculars or stuff, some so more encompassing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, sure.
I mean, I don't have a problem coming out, but if you're going to put something and make it more encompassing of
all extracurricular,
yeah, because we got so much more that goes on than just
yeah.
athletics itself.
Yep, sure.
All right, those are the only ones I have.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll have 2 weeks to look over those as well. So if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and email Pam those. All right. And that was just for information only. So that ends our action items for the evening. And now on to the superintendent's report.
Yeah, I spoke for plenty tonight, so I don't think I need to add a whole lot, but I just want to thank the employees and community members who came tonight to listen. It's not an easy process. We've been basically working on this for a full year on what to do next because we knew we had to cut 6 to 8, well, earlier this year, realizing it was $8 million. So just want to apologize for losing my cool there for a second. It's been stressful for a brief second, I think I did. So I don't know. It's been stressful. I mean, it's been stressful for all of us, right? And I would estimate half of my day, half of our days has been doing budget work for the last 3 months. Every conversation is around budget, and it has not been easy. And just know, I know lives are being impacted, and I know it is just incredibly difficult. And what we said is we're going to meet. I think Sam, you said this. Affected employee groups will be met with. I think tomorrow is we're meet with each of the affected groups. So I don't know if you missed that or not when Sam was presenting. Is that communication is going out here shortly, I believe, and then tomorrow affected employee groups will be met with to talk about next steps, and we're working on landing spots for those for anybody who's impacted. That's our goal, is to find landing spots. If it's not in your position now, then we'll find as best we can something else within the district. So again, I just want to thank, I know we had a large group earlier, some people left, and just want to say thanks for listening. We intentionally said come and listen. We intentionally said watch from home because we want people to know what's going on. We don't shy away from it. We don't keep it in hiding. We make sure people know here's exactly the night when this is going to happen. And we want to and again, I just wanted to say that again, that appreciate your investment in this conversation and being part of the conversation.
Nope. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Smith. I'm gonna start with Director Ewing. Okay. All right. Thank you, Director Ewing. Director Matlock.
I wasn't gonna say anything tonight because I'm literally it's been a long day. Mental health issues with students all day, and then to sit here and have to cut the budget. And I sat in this seat last year, and my husband's job was cut. So this is very emotional for me, and I hate doing it. I know we have to do it. I mean, and as I learn this position, staying in my governance seat, it is very difficult for me not to get into operations because I do feel like the communication is off. We don't communicate effectively as a board. I just feel like there's some things that we've got to clear up in order for me to stay in my seat of governance and lead from this space. We've got to do some professional development. We have to do some things just to get these things together. And this is tough. And I'm sorry. I just don't. Today's been a long day, and I can't get my thoughts together. But this was a difficult day, difficult night. To see people have to be in the same space that my husband was last year, wondering if he was going to have a job. So I'm sorry. I don't know what else to say. Is that I'm sorry. This is tough. Gosh, I got to do this for the next how many years? And I got to figure this out. I got to figure out how to dry these tears up because I know this is something that I have to do. But I want us as a board and as a DLT to start communicating better with each other and we talk about transparency and all that stuff, but I'm just not feeling it. I'm not seeing it, and we've got to do better. We have to. We need to build relationships. We need to build partnerships with our communities. I'm not seeing the partnerships. These things should not be surprises to people. We have got to build. We're going into a one high school, one Waterloo, and we're not unified. I just don't know. I don't know. I'm very frustrated. I'm sorry. I'm just very frustrated.
Take your time. Thank you. Thank you, Director Matlock, for that. Director Cox.
You know, we're in a time that we ask people to be responsible and accountable. You know, as I'm on this board, I think that I will say that this is hard. You know, I work in the schools and seeing people, and then next year not seeing them, it does hurt. This is a difficult spot. It's nothing easy about it. For the ones out there that know me, I just try to be a straight shooter. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not good, so good, but at the end of the day, I got to make sure, hopefully I can be that voice for that teacher that is a little bit disappointed because her class is hard to control her class. Hopefully I can communicate some of the issues that we have in order to move forward, we have to get better at. We as a board, you know, I can just say my part of, you know, we have to be fiscally responsible. I'm not insinuating we wasn't. I'm just saying moving forward, we owe it to everyone to be fiscally responsible. And I know and when I say that, it's not easy because some people, you know, the email that's going to be sent out, it's hard. We're changing lives. You know, this is, you know, I concur with Crystal on the fact that moving forward, we got to be better. We're expecting you to be better. Well, we got to be better. We're going to get it together. We're going to make sure of that. We're going to make sure of that. During this tough moment, as I mentioned earlier about as we're doing these cuts and changing lives, we also have to change lives to the positive. And that's our kids. We have to. We owe it to this community. You know, you mentioned about partnerships. You know, people that are here making the decisions, we need to take a step back and how can we have this district more efficient? Partnerships that you didn't have, now you have. There has to be, you know, I'll say this, as we move forward with our kids, our parents have to get involved. Sometimes I would ask some of the parents to just come to the classroom and see how their kids are acting. Because sometimes it makes it hard. So as I'm putting that on the parents, they have to get involved. We have to have something for the parents to have them involved in. It's more than parent conferences. So as we're doing all these things that's not easy, on the other side of it, we have to be accountable as we move forward of making sure we're efficient for our kids. You know, we're a district that is not a wealthy district. We're not. So we're going to have to make sure we're able to look at all the kids and make sure some of the kids that may have less, we have to make sure we give them hope to look at it, seeing it as a more. Being in this situation again, it's not good, but I'm here to say, for the ones that know me, you know I'll listen to you. This is hard.
Thank you, Director Cox. Director Mills.
I'm not going to say a whole lot more than I already did. I just iterating what Krista said. I'm so sorry to everybody who was affected, and I'm so sorry that this is how you found out. Yeah, I also want to say, though, that I think Waterloo is a wonderful place, and I think we're good people, and I think that people here support each other and love each other, and I think that we can lean on one another, and that I have faith that Sam will do everything he can to help employees find positions, and I just have to hold on to that. I had an awakening moment last week. My dog got hit by a car, and there were people, it was at Six Corners, and people all came and like sat with her. The animal control guy like called me like 6 times as they were taking her to the Humane Society. We got her to anyway, she's home. And the point is I did not remember how good people can be to each other. Like, it slapped me in the face. It did. And I'm trying to hold on to that right now.
Thank you, Director Mills. Director Knight.
One positive thing, then another comment. First, just to recognize our 5 high school wrestlers that qualified for a state tournament. Congratulations to those 5 young men on their achievement. Quite remarkable, in my opinion. And then my other comment, I've been on this board now for 2+ terms, and tonight is the most disappointed I've ever been with this board. I feel like we overstepped our authority and undercut our superintendent with decisions we made here tonight. So.
Thank you, Director Knight. Director Schmidt.
Yes, thanks for coming and listening. As you've heard, it's tough for everybody. I'm sure it's even more frustrating sitting there listening to all this. Thanks everybody for the voluntary and sometimes involuntary sacrifices that are being imposed on us, but it's still about kids, so somehow we have to replace the negativism with hope and vision for kids. Kids need hope and vision more than anything else. So we can't let our situation compromise that of our kids. I think from a financial standpoint, I'm seeing an inflection point where we're no longer going further and further into debt, but the budget is real positive in terms of finally pulling out of debt. If there's anybody with any suggestions on further efficiency, it is about efficiency, as Jonathan said. So there might be some opportunity, as Jesse mentioned, in terms of combining sports under the Titan model, Titan label, maybe a little bit quicker than what we intended. I agree with Crystal. I can't, in terms of the communications, I can't say it as well as she is. So, ditto, if I may. I think it's a real issue that we need to address. But all in all, I hate to use the word good, but I think it's a solid budget plan.
Thank you, Director Schmidt. Without adding on to anything that any of the board members or Dr. Smith have said this evening, I don't know that I can say anything more that will ease anything that we're feeling, that we're all feeling at this moment. So I'll go to a more personal stance. If you've never heard me tell a little bit about my story, I think it's fairly unique, but it's not really unique because I have a lot of people that I have associated with it for years that have experienced some of the things that I've experienced. And the one thing that I can tell you that I learned from some of my previous experiences is humility and caring for your fellow person, your fellow neighbor. And that goes along with the positions that we're in, whether it be a job, your community service. Anytime you give of your talents and your gifts, whether you're getting paid for it or not. Going forth into this one high school and all the things that we're seeing leading up to it, I think it's important that we look at the broad picture. And I know when we talk about budget cuts and positions, we seem to put a name or a face to them and not think about it as a whole for everyone. I can agree with the people up here at the board, the CFO, the HR director. Nobody's up here excited or happy that any of this is taking place. It sucks. It sucks bad. But I believe in people. I believe in working together for the common good and the common cause, so that we don't have to continue to have these type of conversations and these type of meetings. Whatever that may look like going forward in the future, I think that needs to be a challenge for everyone. Whatever part we can play to make this successful, to make our students first, to make our community a better place. That's what I'm here for. So it's a lot of emotion for myself, and I know for the others in this dais. So to avoid going any further, I'll just end my comments there. Is there anything else that the board would like to? Seeing nothing, can I get a motion to adjourn? All those in favor state aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carried. We're adjourned.